What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Fireside Giants live stream. And if you can't tell who we're discussing today, let me go ahead and sound the alarm. Skattebo! You already know. We're talking about the steal that the New York Giants made in the fourth round of this year's draft. The dynamic running back who put up 24 touchdowns in his final collegiate season. None other than Cam Skattebo. Also broke 103 tackles. Guy is an absolute monster. Really excited to have him on the New York Giants and excited to be diving in and taking a closer look at him in today's episode and discussing his potential for this upcoming rookie season of Skattebo. Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling? You got a little bit of criticism on yesterday's episode for your lackluster Skattebo. I know it's a little late by you. Maybe we'll give you an opportunity to make up your Skattebo transgressions at another time. But how are you feeling today, and how excited are you to discuss Cam Skattebo?
I am doing pretty good, and yeah, I could not do my official Skattebo screech because baby's upstairs is sleeping, and to do a proper Skattebo, you gotta rattle the house, right? You gotta shake the hinges on your windows, and I just simply can't afford to do that right now because if I wake up, the baby wife's going to be pissed. You guys know how it is. But yeah, freaking love this player. He is going to be a highlight reel running back for the Giants. And he's a different type of highlight reel running back. When you're looking at like Saquon Barkley, what he brought to the Giants, his shiftiness, his home run capability, very different style of player. He was more of a finesse player. Sometimes you saw that power surge, but he really was a finesse guy. He was so good at dancing around and using his contact balance, using his agility at his size, like the size of a linebacker moving like that. That's why he's one of the best in the game. But Skattebo is a different type of player. He is going to grind you down like a David Montgomery type, but his contact balance, like I've never seen a player use his hands the way that Skattebo does. And when I say that, I mean he uses his hands on the ground to keep himself upright. You don't see NFL players or NFL running backs do that very often where they use their hands to like almost keep plays going. We've seen Montgomery do it a couple times, which I think is a decent comp. But I really like Skattebo's style. He doesn't want to go down. He's low center of gravity. He's a smaller guy. Does he have breakaway speed? No. But he's going to escape a second level tackle and take it an extra 20 yards for you. It's not like he doesn't have he's not the slowest guy in the world. He can definitely, carry the ball pretty quickly. He's not, just doesn't have that second, like Jahmyr Gibbs level acceleration. But he doesn't need to because he plays a different style of game. I think he's the type of running back that's just going to piss defenders off. He's going to bounce off of defenders. He's going to make guys miss, and he's a really good complement back to Tyron Tracy. If not I think he probably is the lead back, and then Tracy ends up being the complement long term. But, Anthony, looking at his style, what he brings to this offense, like how do you think the Giants deploy him? And, what kind of role does he play for this unit? And what kind of personality does he bring back to this offense? Maybe something we haven't had in quite some time.
A hateful personality, right? A violent personality, which is what the New York Giants needed in their backfield. They needed a guy who gets between the tackles, sees a linebacker and doesn't try and dance around him, doesn't go down, says, yeah, you think you can hit, Mr. Linebacker, sir. Let me show you my shoulder pad. That's Cam Skattebo, and that's what the New York Giants really needed. A guy who can grind out those ugly yards, make those pop plays, but just do so with violence, with tenacity. And so that's why I'm really excited to watch Skattebo play, because it's a throwback brand of football, right? You don't see running backs in the modern NFL oftentimes play the way that he does, or at least the way that he did at Arizona State. Now, will it all translate one-to-one to the NFL? Probably not. Some of those tackles that he broke, he's not going to be able to break at the next level, but I'd bet on him breaking quite a few and having a lot of explosive runs and angry runs during his NFL career. So Skattebo, that's what he brings to the table in terms of his personality. But what I think he really brings to the New York Giants offense that's going to be the difference maker, Alex, is his ability to make plays as a receiver out of the backfield. And I'm not just talking about taking a slip screen, a halfback screen to the house, or a 20-yard gain on a halfback screen. He can do that, sure. I'm talking about the routes that the kid runs. Like, he runs routes proficiently. He runs them at a slot wide receiver level. So when you've got a running back who can get out of the backfield, create those yards on every route that he's running, get open, separate against slot cornerbacks and against linebackers and safeties, that's a difference maker. And that makes him an absolute and true weapon for the New York Giants offense. And that's what I think is going to be so special about having this duo here with, of course, Tracy Jr., who I think did a pretty great job handling the bulk of the carries last year and playing as kind of a workhorse back. But then you've got a guy now in Cam Skattebo who is just so dynamic as a receiver. And on top of that, Tracy Jr., a former wide receiver converted to running back, you can have two back sets where the defense doesn't know which one is coming out of the backfield to make the play as the receiver. And that's just going to keep teams guessing and create matchup advantages for you as the New York Giants offense. So that's what I'm really excited for. That's what I think is going to be so special about this duo. Obviously, more on the duo in an upcoming episode that I do have planned for everybody. But Skattebo, what he really brings to the table for me, Alex. I mean, if you turn on the All-22 or even just the highlights and you watch some of these plays where he lines up in the slot or he lines up out of the backfield and runs a Texas or an angle route, just snatches ankles away. You say he runs through people? He does when he's got the ball in his hands, but when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's snatching ankles as a route runner. It's pretty impressive. So that's the big difference maker for me. The fact that the Giants have a running back who can make plays like that out of the backfield is going to be really special. And I think that's how he gets the bulk of his workload as a rookie this upcoming season. So before I hand it back to you for some more Skattebo discussion, Alex, we do have a super chat here from Ian that I want to bring up saying, thought every player was good. ADP besides Alexander. Don't think he's more than cleanup crew and pass rush, but is a sure tackler. Ian, thank you so much for the super chat. Another frequent supporter of the New York Giants channel and community. And yeah, I mean, listen, I loved the draft class. I thought the BPA strategy was on full display. And I think that they all are very good competitors for what the New York Giants need in terms of Skattebo bringing the violence to the backfield and the receiving ability. Darius Alexander, you're right, maybe not the best pass rusher, but he's definitely got upside in that regard, and he's got experience with plenty of starts under his belt at the collegiate level. I love the draft class, and I'm really excited to see how all of these guys fit into the defense. So, Ian, thank you for the super chat. And Alex, if you want to touch on any of the things that I mentioned about Skattebo's receiving quality, feel free, but also I do think Ian makes a good point here. Really good ADP, average draft pick, and range on a lot of the picks for the New York Giants draft class. I think actually, I'll throw out one stat. The only prospect, I saw this on Pro Football Focus today, the only prospect that the Giants didn't have a green ADP on in this year's draft class, meaning the player was ranked higher on a draft board versus where they were taken, was Jackson Dart. But every other prospect that the Giants drafted was a green ADP by like a wide mile as well.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty impressive stuff there. Joe Shane did a great job finding value in this draft class. So how are you feeling about that as well?
Feeling really, really good about it. And listen, Ian, really appreciate the super chats. And Anthony, let me ask you a question. You probably already read this article, but I know PFF dropped like their biggest draft steals. Do you know what ranking they had for Cam Skattebo on their big board?
Well, considering I said it on yesterday's live stream, of course I do, Alex.
Okay. So what is it?
It was 51. He was 51 on their big board, and he was number 3 overall among all running backs in the draft class.
51 on their big board. He went 54 picks after that. If you want to take PFF at their word for it, like go for it. But Skattebo, I mean, just based on that alone is astronomical value. Getting him 54 picks after what a lot of top 55, top 60 prospect is awesome. And the Giants walk away with, sometimes I hate this, like, you play these numbers games, or you play this game of, he doesn't have this, he's not an elite athlete, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, why? Just draft good football players. Stop messing around. Just draft good football players. Cam Skattebo is a really, really good football player. And Anthony, I have another question for you. I think you guys are really going to like this one. So last year, Cam Skattebo had 1,712 rushing yards, which is a stupid number of yards. Like, it's just ridiculous. Arizona State's offense was Skattebo. Defenses knew that's what their game plan was, give him the ball, and they still could not stop him. Now, the question I have for you is this. How many yards of the 1,712 yards came after contact?
1,200.
Do you already know this?
Yes, I said it on the show already. I know everything about these draft picks, man. I mean, I was streaming about them for 3 days straight. I know these guys like the back of my hand.
1,200. 1,202 yards after contact. That is do you have any freaking idea how 1,200 yards after contact? Most running backs will never rush for 1,000 yards in a season in their freaking career, let alone have 1,200 yards after contact. Unbelievable. I think it was 4 yards after contact, and that was with defenses knowing he was running the football on them. Like, just This player is one of the most elite contact balance guys. And I think that the two traits that I really, really like about running backs is contact balance is number one, is one of the top. It's going to be 1A, 1B for me. The second one is short area burst, like short area agility, because you have to be able to navigate and maneuver in those small pockets of space, because that's really where you are most of the time. And if you blend elite contact balance with elite, short area burst and agility, you have something special there. You know what I mean? Those are his two elite traits. And that is exactly what you want in like a guy that's going to be handling the rock 15 plus times a game, because he's going to churn out extra yards for you and he's going to get extra first downs for you. So, going through some of those things, some of the stats I was reading about, obviously the receiving quality you mentioned, this is a very underrated receiver. Why he is an underrated receiver, I'll leave it with this, Anthony, is because if you can scheme him the ball with only one defender for him to beat, he is going to beat that defender 99% of the time. If you leave him in man coverage, you leave him in zone where he has just one man to beat, he is going to destroy that guy in the open field. He's not going down. So that is really what I like about him, is like you put him in a spot where you can swing him out a screen pass and there's only one guy to beat. He's going to win that battle most of the time. And that's why he is so dangerous with the ball as a receiver. So really like this player, man. I can't say enough good things about Skattebo and why I believe he's going to be an impact player for the Giants.
That he will be. I definitely think he's going to make an impact from day one. And I think that this two-headed monster that the New York Giants are forming in their backfield is one to be really excited about. The offense, I mean, the Giants didn't do a lot of free agency to upgrade the offense outside of obviously making major upgrades at quarterback. They're hoping that translates to upgrades across the board for the players that they already had. But this year's draft, I think they did a great job bringing in Skattebo and bringing a different element to this offensive lineup that they haven't had before and haven't had in many years. In fact, Alex, here's a fun fact for you. The last time the New York Giants had two running backs go for 1,000 yards in the same backfield was 2008, Brandon Jacobs and David Ware. So a very long time ago. It's actually very rare. I think only like 6 total tandems have ever gone for 1,000 rushing yards apiece in the same backfield. Now, 1,000 all-purpose yards is a different story, but 1,000 rushing yards apiece, I don't anticipate that for Skattebo and Tracy. But 1,000 scrimmage yards apiece, I could totally see happening. Ian with another super chat. Thank you so much. Ian saying, Skattebo reminds me a lot of Ekeler. Don't love the speed, but past the front seven, but he's not a bad athlete making cuts, etc. Could be a touchdown monster. I really think he will be a touchdown monster because let's say that it's second down from the 5-yard line. You hand that thing off and just let Skattebo bounce off 3 guys and fall into the end zone, right? Like, I think he's going to be a touchdown machine inside the 10-yard line. And I also think he's going to hit some big plays. You're right, he doesn't have that long speed, but he can grind it out, ugly yardage, and fall forward. And I think falling forward is what the Giants have been lacking out of that running back group for the last year, really, because, I mean, listen, I like Singletary. I think he's a pretty good veteran. I really like Tracy. I think he's a really good young back. But in terms of getting hit at the 3-yard line and somehow falling in for a touchdown, Daniel Jones did more of that than Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary did last year, to be completely honest. I mean, Jones had a couple plays where he put the shoulder down, laid the boom, and ran into the end zone. We know about those, but I don't really want the quarterback doing that going forward. I'd rather have Skattebo putting the shoulder down and falling forward from the 3-yard line and into the end zone. So I agree. I think he's going to be a touchdown monster. He's a guy that in my dynasty leagues, I am targeting much earlier than most other people. I want to bring this guy in on my fantasy teams because I think he's going to put up touchdowns. But Alex, this super chat right here, I do kind of like this comparison of Austin Ekeler for Cam Skattebo. I know that you're a big Austin Ekeler fan. Every time we've talked football outside of just talking Giants, I feel like you do gravitate towards Austin Ekeler quite a bit. And I think you did call that for the Washington Commanders last year. A lot of people kind of wrote off Ekeler, said he was washed up. But I do remember you saying, no, he's still definitely got something in the tank. That's a good pickup for them. What are your thoughts on that comparison? I know you're a big Ekeler fan. Austin Ekeler, Cam Skattebo. Do you see the comparison? And what do you think about it?
Austin Ekeler comparison is a really interesting one because Ekeler, has kind of developed into that third down back and whatnot. But early in his career, he was a bruiser, man. Ekeler was ripped, and he was a power runner at times early on, but he was obviously a smaller guy. I think that Cam Skattebo's frame is a little bigger, like he's a little bit more broad-shouldered, a little bit more contact balance. But dude, if we get a healthy version of young Austin Ekeler, I would take that any day of the week, Anthony. Like literally any day of the week. Young Austin Ekeler, when he was healthy, was one of the best running backs in the game. Like why? I mean, if I'm mistaken, please correct me, but I would be like, we just struck gold if we got a young Austin Ekeler that was healthy, and if Skattebo can stay healthy and or play through injury like he has all throughout his collegiate career, we would be like celebrating from the rooftops if we got that. To get a player like that in the 4th round with his level of upside, and I think that he's even more of like a grinder than Ekeler in a way. I think Eckler's game, he's a little bit undersized in some ways. I think that Skattebo's a little bit more broad, a little bit more bulky, a little bit more maybe you could say workhorse-like. So if he can stay a little bit more healthy and offer that, I would be like over the moon to get a young, healthy Austin Ekeler, right? That guy was a star, not to mention a ridiculously good receiving running back as well, and a good pass protector from the running back position. So like that would be, I would be head over heels, for Skattebo's style of game if he could replicate that. But I think he has a little bit more, even more power to his game, a little bit more workhorse mentality.
Yeah, I could see that. Workhorse mentality, I think, is definitely a good way to describe what Cam Skattebo has. And I did just Google the relative athletic scores for both of these players. And Ekeler did have kind of like a significantly faster 40-yard dash. Again, that was kind of one of my criticisms with Skattebo coming out. I thought that he was kind of slow in terms of his 40 and his straight line speed, but he more than makes up for it with the other skills that he has in his repertoire. So, yeah, once again, his ability as a receiver, I think, is going to be a game changer. But another super chat here, this one from Michael Russ. Thank you so much, Michael, with the $10 super. Saying pad level, quick feet, contact balance, ability to break tackles at his height. The taller defenders in the front 7 won't see him coming until he is lowering the boom on them. LFG. I think that's a really good description of what Cam Skattebo brings to the table as a runner. And you're right. The guy has elite contact balance, and he gets low. We've always heard the saying, Alex, a low man wins. And you know what? That's why Cam Skattebo wins more than he loses, because he gets low and he pops up and puts that shoulder right into the chin of a linebacker, and that linebacker all of a sudden is on their ass. So that's what Cam Skattebo brings to the table, and I think that's a really good way. All of these traits here, they describe what he brings to the table very, very well. So that plus his ability to make plays as a receiver, which I think ties into the quick feet. But yeah, the tackle breaking ability, the other stat, I think we already mentioned it, but I'll go ahead and say it again. He broke 103 tackles last year. That's like a ridiculous number. I don't even know. I can't even fathom that across, what did he play? 13 total games. So that's like 10 tackles a game almost, maybe a little bit less, but even still, okay. I mean, it's a ridiculous number regardless. So maybe 7 tackles a game, whatever. I'm terrible at math, as everybody who's a long-term viewer of this channel knows. But I digress off that. The ability to break tackles is bar none the best in this draft class, I think. So when you're looking at Skattebo, Alex, and the traits here, especially that Michael included in the super chat, the low man wins, and he's got the boom. And I think this is exactly what the Giants offense needed. And you know what I'm already sensing, Alex? I think he's already like a fan favorite player. I think he's going to be the favorite player for a lot of fans, New York Giants player, by like week 8 this season. I think he's going to have like a mean, angry run. Like you ever seen Kyle Brandt on NFL Network has those angry runs of the week. He's going to get like 3 in the first 6 weeks of the season. And everybody's going to be like, yeah, this is my new favorite player on the New York Giants. I think it's going to happen really, really quickly. He might not go for 1,000 yards. He might not be this Pro Bowl level talent, but he's just going to be a fan favorite. Like Giants fans are going to love this kid, the way that he plays and the way that he just prepares, and the kind of plays that he makes are truly incredible and super fun to watch. So really excited for that. Again, Michael, thank you so much for the super chat. And Alex, that's where I'll hand it back to you to kind of touch on some of these traits and abilities that Skattebo has mentioned in the super chat.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Appreciate you, Mike, for the super chat. Really, really generous. And yeah, pad level, quick feet, contact balance, ability to break tackles at his height. The taller defenders in the front 7 won't see him coming until he's lowering the boom on them. And yeah, like that's what I was trying to say. Like his ability to stick his hand in the dirt and use that as leverage. You know what I mean? Think about it. It's much harder to knock a table down that has 4 legs than a table that has 2 legs, right? And he uses his hands like extra legs when he gets knocked off balance, and he's able to keep himself upright and then keep the play going that way. And when you go at him low, he just shrugs you off because like his legs are like tree trunks. So you just bounce off of him. And you can't really bring him down. He's just so freaking tough. So I really think this is going to be a fun player to watch. And one of the things that I think that style of play brings back is the physicality the Giants have been lacking for many years. And it inspires the whole team. You watch, how many times have we seen a guy like Saquon Barkley, like break a tackle and the whole team is going absolutely nuts. The whole stadium is going absolutely nuts. This guy can do that every game for you. Cam Skattebo is going to break a tackle that the whole stadium is going to be like posting it on their phones, freaking out, going absolutely nuts. The whole team is going to be going crazy. That, revitalizes, that sparks an offense that keeps you going if you're already gathering momentum. So like for the Giants, it is just a tremendous spot to find yourself in with a player like this. And, I see like the way that I would love for him to play, Anthony. This isn't a player comp, but the way that I would love Cam Skattebo to play would be similar to how early day Ezekiel Elliott played. Like he was just a rock. Like he would just batter you for every single drive. He would batter you, and he just would get stronger as the game would go on. And then the fourth quarter would roll around, and the linebackers would be like, "Yo, I'm tired of hitting this guy." You know what I mean? Because he just will not go down, and he's like running into a brick wall. So if Cam Skattebo can be like that, like you're running into a brick wall over and over and over, eventually they're not going to want to tackle you. You know what I mean? They're going to bounce off of you. They're not going to want to lower their shoulder because they lose the battle every time. So I'd love him to have that like young Ezekiel Elliott type energy to him. And Elliott never had like true breakaway speed, I would say, but he had enough speed to get the job done, and he had an elite contact balance for a large portion of his career. So I think that, him having a little bit of that in his game, mixed with some Austin Ekeler, mixed with some Jordan Montgomery, like there's a lot of traits from a lot of players you could pull to kind of compose what Cam Skattebo is. But one thing I think he does have is a mentality that is rare to find. Running backs have to have that mentality, that tough nature to them. But Cam Skattebo has like kind of been overlooked a lot of his career. Ashton Jentney got all the attention last year in college football. Meanwhile, there was a guy that had over 2,000 all-purpose yards, in Cam Skattebo. Like, not to say that Jentney didn't deserve it, because he absolutely did. But Cam Skattebo was overlooked. Going in the fourth round is like, it's a far cry from what some of those top running backs went. And I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. And there's nothing better than a really good player that has a chip on their shoulder. So I think the Giants benefited in more ways than one. And I think that the mental and the intangibles that he brings to the team are going to be just as important as the tangibles he brings.
I totally agree with that. I think that what he brings to the locker room and the huddle, all of that stuff, and just his energy, I think is going to be really important for the New York Giants. And before I get to this next super chat that I see here waiting for us, I do want to bring up this one pro comp based on athleticism scores. Alex, I think this is really interesting. I'm over here on relative athletic score, ras.football. And I found Kareem Hunt actually compares very nicely to Cam Skattebo. I want to get your take on that, whether or not you think that they are similar players, because I feel like Kareem Hunt pretty early in his career with the Kansas City Chiefs, had that angry mentality running the football, a lot of pop in his shoulder pad, and a really good ability to make plays as a receiver out of the backfield. Might not be the worst pro comp there between Kareem Hunt and Cam Skattebo. But again, I'll kind of take another layer to this. Cam Skattebo at 5'9", Kareem Hunt at 5'10", Skattebo 219 pounds, Hunt 216, 17 bench reps from Skattebo, 18 from Hunt, 4.65 40-yard dash compared to 4.62 40-yard dash. 10-yard split was 1.58 and then 1.59. 39-inch vertical versus 36-inch vertical. The similarities from an athletic standpoint are actually pretty remarkable between Cam Skattebo and Kareem Hunt. Very similar athletic profiles here from Relative Athletic Score. I thought that was interesting and relevant info to bring up. And as we do try and place what his role might look like and try and piece together what his comparison or what his playing style might actually translate to become at the next level, I actually don't think that Kareem Hunt is a bad comparison. In fact, I think it's a pretty good one. Now, I think Cam Skattebo's got maybe better vision than Hunt did and probably better tackle breaking ability, better contact balance, those things. But you know what? At the end of the day, in terms of their playing style, it's not really the worst comparison. So before I do get to this next super chat, I am curious to hear your take on that comparison, Alex, between Cam Skattebo and an early career Kareem Hunt.
Look, if the Giants walk away, again, similar to Austin Ekeler, if you get Kareem Hunt's production early in his career, you're really freaking happy. Kareem Hunt was amazing early in his career. And, I think that even Skattebo has more talent than him. I think he is equally, if not better, contact balance. I think from an athletic standpoint, his short bursts are equal, if not better. And he doesn't come with the legal issues that Hunt presented at some point in his career. So, I do think that Skattebo was just an all-around good dude. I think he's a tough son of a gun. And I think that he has really good traits. Like if you're the Giants and you're staring at the board and at 105, you're like, this guy is a really good dude. He is a really tough player. He is a really good personality for football. He loves the game. He wants to be great. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He has multiple elite traits. Why is he still here? That's probably what you're thinking if you're Joe Schoen. Why is he still here? Thank God he is, because we're going to add him to this freaking offense right now. So, the Giants now on offense have Cam Skattebo, Tyrone Tracy, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wandale Robinson, Theo Johnson, obviously Jalen Hyatt's behind the scenes there. Like, I think this offense has the making of a really good young core. I think the only thing that I would say is missing is like a true WR2, like a true, like really solid WR2 alongside Neighbors, which I do think they will address in 2026 most likely. But the running backs are set. Theo Johnson's, I think, upside is really, really solid. I need to see it this year. But I do think they could, obviously we'll see what happens with Wandale. Maybe they want to find another slot receiver. Who knows? But I think this offense has the making of a really good long-term core, having our draft capital next year, first and second rounders, plus a ton of money to spend. I mean, Anthony, how do you feel right now? I think at the very least, this is a good young core, and we have a lot of resources we can pour into it, even upgrading it next year as well.
I really love the foundation that the Giants have set. I think this draft class is going to go a really long way, especially here with what SPP Williams is saying in the super chat. Thank you so much, our friend, saying thank you for the draft enthusiasm. Yeah, we're enthusiastic about it. I think it's kind of hard not to be. This is a great draft class, a lot of great ADP picks, like value picks. BPA was the strategy. I mean, it was really, really impressive what Joe Schoen was able to accomplish. And yeah, what a time to be a Giant. Hall of Famer at quarterback, I think, is something that a lot of people gloss over. I mean, I don't, because I say all the time how excited I am that Russell Wilson is wearing a Giants uniform. I've been dreaming about this for like 10 years. No, it's not the Russell Wilson I dreamed of 10 years ago, but it's still Russell Wilson, a future Hall of Famer, wearing a New York Giants uniform. An experienced safety, a better CB1, Skattebo, Abdul Carter. Yeah, we take the lead. We're going to eat. I love this super chat. Thank you so much for leaving it and tying it into what you were saying, Alex. Yes, I think there is a foundation here, and I think fans are seeing that. Like we're seeing in the super chat, like there's talent, you've got an experienced safety. You've got a bridge quarterback who's going to be a Hall of Famer and wear a gold jacket one day. You've got Abdul Carter. You've got a lot of talent now on this roster. Whereas I think 365 days ago, I don't know if we were saying the same thing. I think we were still saying last year, roster's still quite a ways off. They still need starting talent here. They need starting talent there. I don't know how much starting talent the Giants need. Obviously, they can upgrade at certain spots, and some of their starters could absolutely be replaced with better starters, sure. But do they have any glaring, obvious holes all across this roster? I don't think they do, not quite like they did last year. So they've done a great job. I definitely see the vision. I think that there is a foundation being built here, and now it's really just going to be up to Jackson Dart, because if they hit it on that draft pick and he becomes a franchise quarterback, steps in here next year, another year of roster building and construction on top of what they've just done, and then Dart takes over, yeah, the future of the New York Giants could look really bright this time next year. So I'm super excited. SPP Williams, thank you so much for the super chat. Alex, what's your take on it, and how enthusiastic are you not only about the New York Giants draft class, but also about the foundation that they are starting to set, hopefully, for Jackson Dart?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really excited about this draft class, and really the enthusiasm we have is it's been a long time coming, to be quite honest with you. It's been pretty negative around here for a couple of years. So really excited, to be honest. And the foundation they're building for Jackson Dart is critical, right? We've seen what the Giants have done to players with potential. Daniel Jones once had potential. Like, he was not, what we saw at the end there was not the player we once saw when he was the 6th overall pick years ago. What we saw from him was a robotic shell of what we thought he might be. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a dead freaking carcass of a prospect. And Daniel Jones, obviously his days are gone, but the main point I want to take away from it is that they set him up for failure. They built one of the worst offensive lines in football year over year. They gave him no playmakers. They traded his best playmaker the year that he got here in OBJ. They never really gave him anything, right? I mean, Neighbors, he got in year 6. So the Giants screwed that man. They tried to get Kenny Galladay, and the dude was just done. Like, it was a horrible deal at the time. We thought he had something left in the tank, and he clearly did. He's not even in the league anymore. So, like, I do think that the Giants really royally screwed up any foundation they were trying to build for a quarterback. With Jackson Dart, Neighbors is like the best possible thing you could offer a young quarterback that wants to have a successful start to their career, just an elite receiver, or like day one. And building the offensive lineup. Like they've made progress there. So I do think if they can stay healthy, maybe they have next year's draft class and money to spend, they can always upgrade there if need be. They can always add another receiver. Like I think they address the defense this year, Anthony. And what that really means is like Paulson Adebo's under contract for 3 years. Javon Holland's under contract for 3 years. Tyler Nubin's under contract for 3 years as a rookie deal. Bobby Okereke, we'll see what happens to him in the future. Micah McFadden, I think they'll extend. Dexter Lawrence is locked up. Brian Burns is locked up. Kayvon Thibodeau, we'll see what his future, but they picked up the 5th-year option, so he's here for another 2 seasons. Abdul Carter's entering his rookie campaign. Darius Alexander, like this whole defense is stacked with talent. Deonte Banks is still in his rookie contract. Like this defense doesn't even need any more investment, really. Like they have starters across the board. If the Giants want to go into 2026 and say every single piece of draft capital, not every single piece, but a large chunk of our draft capital and resources are going to be towards just upgrading the offense to a degree that Jackson Dart simply cannot fail, I support that. You know what I mean? Like they have a lot of resources to say, if the offense is a problem, we can throw every dart at the board, pun intended, to make sure that this kid succeeds. So they've positioned this quite nicely. And to be honest with you, I didn't even see this coming because Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll had their backs against the wall with what seemed like a catastrophic event. And the truth is, Anthony, is that the only reason that this is happening right now is because they were able to draft their own quarterback and then sit him for a year. They tried to do this with Daniel Jones, but they were paying him too much money. The rookie contract of the quarterback position is going to be the best thing that the Giants can deal with right now, right? That is going to be what saves them in the end. The ability to spend flexibly or really aggressively, and that DJ contract just strapped us to the wall, man. Like we couldn't even make any deals that really upgraded this roster. Jackson Dart's rookie deal is going to allow this team to upgrade at will. You know what I mean? Like best player on the market, he's yours. Finding another really good assistant coach or offensive coordinator, whatever it might be, they're yours. Like this is what the Giants team has turned around and done. Now the problem is, I wouldn't even say it's a problem, but really the reality is Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll still have to win games this year. Like there's still a lot to prove. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this is a sure thing and like they're going to be successful. They've positioned themselves to be successful, but we've seen what that looks like. We've seen that implode many times. So I got to see it to believe it, just like you guys. However, just based on paper, what we can see on paper, I like the direction. Now it actually has to turn into success and progress. That's been their biggest problem, right, Anthony? Their biggest problem has been turning good on paper into good in real life. That is the hump that they find themselves at right now. That is the hurdle they have to get over for us to actually believe in them again. They have one more year to prove that.
That they do. This is the year. I mean, you're out of time, right? You got to figure it out this year. Otherwise, get out of here. I honestly, sometimes I think back on this offseason, and I'm kind of amazed that we're at this point where we're talking about Brian Daboll coaching up his own quarterback, because 6 months ago, we didn't think that was even going to be a possibility. So kind of bizarre and in some ways amazing that we're at this point, and also a touch exciting because, yes, we were negative and we wanted people fired. But hey, here we are, and another crushed NFL draft and another crushed NFL offseason. And I guess, you know what? There's a chance that in the long run, John Mara maybe did make the right decision, but have to see it play out first, have to see some results this season. That's what I really need to see. But SPP Williams with another super chat. Thank you so much. Back to back with the super chats. Really much appreciated. Saying they genuinely got dogs on this team that can all lower the boom. Micah McFadden, Sexy Dexy, Abdul Carter, Cam Skattebo. Even Jackson Dart likes to put his shoulder down, has a little bit of that Baker Mayfield quality to him. I do agree. And Darius Alexander likes to kill the will. Yeah, he did say that in the press conference, and I loved that quote. And I think that Darius Alexander, the violence that he brings, listen, what I'll say is Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll had a very clear intention in this year's draft. They wanted to bring bad MFers to the football field. Like they wanted guys who go out there to demoralize, guys who take no S. They just go out there and they punch and they fight and they kill. Like that was what the New York Giants wanted to bring to this football team this offseason. And goal accomplished. They really did bring those kind of dogs to the field. And that's why I think we're also excited to see this play out, right? We want to see if these Giants new additions live up to the hype? Do they bring that violence? Do they play with that edge and that mean streak that we're hoping for? Are they a bunch of crazy dogs out there to harken back to the famous Lawrence Taylor quote? That's what we're looking for, and that's what I'm really excited about. So thank you so much for the super chat once again. And Alex, how do you feel about the dogs that were added to the roster this year? And do you see it the same way I see it? There was clearly an identity and an intention here from the New York Giants. They were striving towards a specific identity and intentionally through the draft found these violent dudes to bring to the field and create that dog mentality lineup.
I mean, the Giants let's be honest, Anthony, the last couple of years we've been pushed around. Like, we've been demoralized, embarrassed, like in big games at our rivals' homes. We've been put to death by the Cowboys in Arlington in front of Jerry Jones. I hate Jerry Jones. All I want to do is win. You know what I mean? Like, the Giants now have a team that Jerry's going to be sitting there in his freaking in his box with all his goodies and toys, and he's going to watch his team get demoralized. He's going to watch his team get beat down physically. The Giants are going to go into Philadelphia where the fans are going to not give you an inch, and they have to physically impose their will against a really, really physical and tough offense and defense, right? They have to go to the Commanders now where their team is no joke. And they have to physically impose their will on Jaden Daniels. They have to show Jaden Daniels that if he tries to run, if he tries to make something happen, he's going to get buried in the dirt. That is the only way to change the script. And the Giants have to build that mentality up. Like, you have to be a dog, man. Like, Neighbors was a dog last year. He was the only one, though. I mean, Burns had his moments. Dexter Lawrence had his moments before the injuries and whatnot. But Neighbors was the only guy that really the whole season just played like his.
You guys comment below if you can hear Alex. He's frozen for me. Is it on my end or is it on Alex's end? I think he's frozen. Am I right about this one? Yeah, he froze up. Okay. Hopefully he makes his return soon enough, but I like what he was saying. Absolutely. Impose that will, especially in these divisional games. One thing that I'll mention, how we've gotten to the point where the Giants back-to-back seasons, week one, we felt like the season was over, is just like an absolute tragedy. And hold on, he's made his return. Wasn't gone long. He's back. I'll let you go ahead and finish then.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was in such a good freaking monologue too. Damn. That really disappointed me because I was like actually
This is up our local recordings too. I don't know how to clip the great monologue for the podcast.
Dude, I was cooking so hard, bro. It was just rattling off the freaking cranium too. It was just, I was on fire. That really sucks, man. I can't really pick that back up, but but I will say this just to wrap up my thought. This team has not been physical for a long time. I want to demoralize Jerry Jones. I want to demoralize Jaden Daniels, who I loved at once, but now I hate. And I want to demoralize the Philadelphia Eagles in freaking Philadelphia in front of their fans. The Giants have been just absolute wimps for so long, and pushovers and jokes and embarrassments. They have to impose their will. And they drafted a couple guys who their whole game is predicated on just destroying other people, just destroying them, you know, whether it be Abdul Carter and his speed and his bend around the edge, or Darius Alexander and his will to kill, or Cam Skattebo's ability to dominate. They have to set the tone and change the narrative and flip the script. They need to do that. This draft class was a good step in the right direction, in my opinion, towards accomplishing that goal.
And I agree with you. Yeah, I like the will to kill. That sounds great. That sounds like a really good t-shirt idea. The will to kill. Ooh, that sounds cool. I like that one. Shout out to Darius Alexander for being such a badass. We'll go on to this next super chat, though, from Ian. A lot of super chats today, guys. We really do appreciate the support so much. Thank you, guys. Means a lot to us. But Ian with another super chat. I think this is his third of the day, and I think he's got a fourth in the chamber. Yes, that's right, Ian. Thanks a ton. Saying, I'm not going to lie, I actually don't think Skattebo has the speed good enough to get the job done. If you watch the film, he's not getting by consistently. And you know what? I have said that quite a few times, that his speed is a concern for me. His athleticism is a concern for me. And that's why, you know, when Alex, you said at the beginning of the show, you kind of hinted at, I could see him being the lead back by season's end, you know, taking the bulk of it and like being the starter. I don't think that I envision that for Skattebo, because I do think he's a bit limited athletically, as I've said before. And while I'm really excited for him, I think he's going to be one of my favorite players on the Giants within his first season. I think he's going to be a touchdown machine. I think he's going to make a major impact as a receiver out of the backfield. All of these things true and constant. But I don't know if the breakaway speed that he had at the collegiate level is going to translate to the NFL. 4.65 40, obviously being among the slowest. I don't know if there are any starting running backs in the NFL right now who have a 40-yard dash quite that slow. So 40-yard dash isn't everything. And I don't think that it defines a player. I think that what really defines Skattebo, as I've said, is his ability to make plays as a receiver, the power, the contact balance, all of those things. That's what's going to define Skattebo, and that's why I think he's going to be an effective player. And I do view him as a player who should absolutely amass 1,000 all-purpose yards, at least in more than one season of his career. And I hope he has a very long one with the New York Giants. So I do have high hopes for Skattebo. I do see the concerns, and I do believe that he is a little bit of a limited player because of his lack of athleticism. But I think he makes up for his lack of athleticism in a lot of different ways and a lot of ways that are translatable to the NFL level. So I'm excited to watch him play, and I think he is going to be a punch you in the mouth type running back. But as I keep saying, outside of that, because I don't know how often and frequently those kind of punch you in the mouth plays are going to translate, what does translate, he is as refined as a route runner as you can get from the running back position. And that's why I'm so excited about Skattebo, and that's why I just keep bringing that up. Like, we'll talk about his 103 missed tackles force. We'll talk about his 1,700 rushing yards and 1,200 after contact. And I just keep going, yeah, but can we give more attention to his receiving ability? That's where people really need to turn on the film and check him out because, again, the routes, the release package, the ability to have body control when making some difficult grabs, like very impressive stuff from Cam Skattebo. And I don't even think we mentioned this on the channel yet. He can punt the football, which is like bizarre to me, but he's a good punter as well. So what can't this guy do other than run a fast 40-yard dash? But no, I do agree. Like, I think he's limited in some ways, and it does give me some concern. But again, I think he more than makes up for it with his receiving ability and obviously that contact balance. So Ian, thank you so much for the super chat. Again, hear your concerns, but I do believe Skattebo's skill set will make up for his relative lack of long speed on the football field.
Yeah, I do think there's very few running backs in the NFL that have that like elite speed, right? Like Jahmyr Gibbs or the long breakout runs. I think Turd Haller mentioned or somebody mentioned Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. Like there's a very, very small amount of running backs that can accomplish that goal. But the truth is like I'm not looking for a player. Of course, you want a player like that, but they're hard to find. And maybe Skattebo ends up becoming something like that with his contact balance and ability to break tackles. Listen, the Giants just need a player who's going to do the dirty work and be a workhorse and be someone that they can lean on and depend on in big moments. And Skattebo historically has provided that at the collegiate level. Now we see if it translates. What I will say is the offense is a collaborative effort, right? We tried the let's let Saquon Barkley be our whole offense and everything predicated itself on him and the long touchdown runs. That was an offense we ran for like 3 years. Daniel Jones could not score touchdowns. Like he did it on the ground sometimes. He barely threw any touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, big run was literally our whole game plan every single week. I would rather have a much more balanced offense than rely on one player to do everything for you. You know, I'd rather have Skattebo be picking up first downs, yards after contact, doing the dirty work, having Neighbors involved, like, you know, taking some deep shots to Slayton, Neighbors, Hyatt, like, you know, getting your tight ends involved, having more balanced offense. Because you want to know why that's important, Anthony? If your big playmaker who your whole offense relies on goes down, you're cooked. You're done. You're screwed because no one's replacing that. Or, you know, if a defense finds a way to stop that player, stack the box, double team, whatever it might be, your offense is cooked. You have nothing else. You need to have more balance in the NFL. The Giants are tailoring their offense now to at least have more balance. Last year it was Neighbors or nothing. Now they have other players to give the ball to. Now they have a quarterback who can throw the deep ball, who can do other things. That balance is going to be instrumental in having a successful future. So I do think that the speed, you know, to get the job done, he's got enough speed. He's got enough traits. He's got enough talent. Like, but the Giants don't need him to be this home run hitter because the offense should not be predicated on him just being this monster player. But even so, like maybe the Giants next year say, "Whoa, there's a running back in the draft with elite speed that would really pair well with Skattebo." Maybe they go and draft him. Who knows? Like, you know, this is just step one, really, in what is actually kind of maybe year 1 or 2 of a rebuild. The Giants did not really hit the reset button, Anthony, until like 2 years ago, a year ago even. Like this feels like the start of a rebuild, kind of, not the end of one. In terms of where we were. So just interesting situation.
Yeah, my fault. Clicked the wrong button there. But
Playing
it
with
is an interesting
settings.
situation. I'll say, in terms of when the rebuild started, it started when they cut Daniel Jones. That's when they started rebuilding. And that was midway through this past season. They didn't start rebuilding until then, which was the mistake. The fact that they started the rebuild so late. But hey, at least we're here. And now we're seeing, oh,
The
maybe they
bad
actually
omen is
do know
gone.
how to rebuild. Maybe they do know how to rebuild. They just didn't do it at the right timeline. But hey, at least we're on the right timeline now. Thank God. Let's see how we go from here. John Kirk with a super chat. Thanks so much, John. Bringing up a topic that I did want to bring up at some point during this live stream. Phil Simms did say on FanDuel TV that if either A, Jackson Dart, or B, Abdul Carter requests to wear the number 11, he is absolutely open to unretiring the number and allowing one of the Giants rookies to rock number 11. Me personally, I don't want to see any of these numbers get unretired. I know this is becoming a point of contention and it's becoming a little bit controversial among Giants fans. Should they be unretiring numbers? Should they not? Me personally, I say no. I think there's a lot of numbers that aren't retired. Go out there and get your own retired if you're Abdul Carter or if you're Jackson Dart. If Jackson Dart plays really well and he's a franchise quarterback for the Giants for the next 10 years, wins a chip, his number is going to get retired. So he doesn't need to wear 11. He could wear 12. He could wear any of them. He'll get a number retired. So the Giants are clearly running out of numbers to retire, which is the problem. They have a lot of retired numbers. So yes, maybe they do need to start unretiring some. And for the numbers who have alive and healthy players who can unretire them, maybe they should. I think that would be the argument about it. But I don't know, man. Phil Simms is a Super Bowl champion with the team. It's kind of hard to argue for unretiring his number, but he gave his blessing. If he's fine with it, then I guess he's fine with it. We'll see which one of these players ends up taking it on, whether that's Carter or Dart or if anybody at all. I still think that Abdul Carter should wear 91, try and get that retired for himself and for Tuck. I think that would be great to do a joint retirement in 15 years from now with the two of them. That's my take on that. But I do find it interesting the fact that unretiring numbers has become such a big point of discussion for Giants fans following the NFL draft now that we have some players who, well, we got to make some room for. So, Alex, what's your take on it? Should the Giants consider unretiring number 11? They have the blessing from Phil Simms, but do you think it would be right or wrong? And if they do unretire it, what do you think? Micah Parsons carrying on the number 11 legacy from Penn State? How do you feel about that?
I mean, obviously, it'd be cool to have his number from Penn State, but I don't really like the whole unretiring numbers thing.
I say
to
Michael
be honest
Parsons.
with you,
I meant to say Abdul Carter. I think I might have said Michael Parsons.
Yeah,
Abdul
they're
Carter.
very similar players. Abdul Carter, yeah, it's I don't think the Giants should be unretiring players. I don't think you should be trying to get retired numbers. Make your own history, bro. Make your own history. You know what I mean? Like, be your own guy. I get that you want to have a specific number, blah blah blah, but why can't you have a number? Like, if you end up being one of the best Giants ever and you have to share your retired number with a player, it's always going to be, oh, I have a shared number with Phil Simms or whoever. Make your own history and retire your number because you dominated that with that number on, not somebody else that gave it to you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculousness in my opinion. Like, I don't understand why they don't want to have their own history. They got to just like play all these games. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's just a number, but like, make your own history. And I think pave your own road, your own legacy. What happens if you suck? You know, what happens if you don't end up panning out and now Phil Simms unretired his number just for you to suck? You know what I mean? Like, make your own story, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I think that the Giants should be careful with these unretiring of numbers. Obviously, Neighbors did it last year, and that was cool. But I don't know. They got to be careful about it, and we'll see ultimately what comes of it if they unretire 11 or not. But I think that getting a number retired that was worn by a great in the past, like a 58 Carl Banks, I don't think his number's retired. It's definitely not, actually. I'm pretty sure Karake wears that. Right? Yeah, whatever. 58's not retired. 91 was worn by Tuck. That's not retired. Like, I think that's a cool way to wear a Legends number and go get it retired. That's what I would like to see from some of these young players. Get one that should have been retired in the past but isn't, and go ahead and get it retired for the both of you. That's my take on it. So I want to see 91 on the back of Abdul Carter, but ultimately we'll see. Maybe he'll get 11. It's different, though, because there are teams that do the legacy thing, right? Like Penn State The best player wears 11, right? Like that's their thing. If you follow European soccer, like Napoli, I'm a Napoli fan. 10 is retired, but other teams take 10 and the best player wears 10 and they make it a legacy. I'm pretty sure, I think Brazil does that on the international team. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys prominently, number 88 is always worn by the top receiver. Des Bryant wore it. Michael Irvin wore it. CeeDee Lamb wears it. So that's like a special thing. If the Giants want to create a special legacy number like that, I would be interested in that. But I don't know if unretiring a number in order to achieve that goal is the way of going about it. I don't know. I think it's definitely an interesting debate, though, for Giants fans. So another super chat here from Ian. Ian absolutely crushed it and blew up the super chats today. Thank you so much, our good friend and long-term supporter, saying, I've been hella negative today. By the way, my bad. It's all good, man. I don't think you've been hella negative. I think you're being realistic. And, you do a lot of research into these players. That much I know. You sent me your draft board and my Twitter DMs, and I took a look at it. And, we had some points of agreement, especially on Tyler Shuck being a bad prospect. And we had a couple points of disagreement as well. But you do your research, you have your takes on these players, and I don't think that it's negative to just kind of share, hey, maybe Skattebo is going to be a little limited in one regard. Yeah, he probably is, and you're probably right about that, but there are other ways to look at him and see the potential for him to be a good star. So nevertheless, Ian, thank you so much for supporting us, and hey, man, we're being really positive lately, so if somebody's going to take a little bit of air out of the tires and get us back down to a normal PSI, I think that's probably welcomed for some fans.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, we are being very positive, and I do think it's warranted at this point in time. And Ian, appreciate the super chats as always, my friend. The negativity, I would say, like Anthony said, realistic perspective is not negativity. It's just bringing more perspective to the table and for us things to look over and consider. Really, all those months that Anthony and I were called negative and negative Nancy's and whatnot, we were just being realistic. I wouldn't even say we were being negative. We were just reacting to the product the Giants were putting on the football field. That is all. But when they do good things, as you can see right now, we're being realistic. We're being optimistic because that's where the direction is pointing us in. So we just try to keep it real with you guys, even if it means like just sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's just horrible to get through. It just is reality. And, we're just all trying to survive those moments the same with the rest of you guys. But now, light at the end of the tunnel, things looking up. I'm really excited to just be positive this season and really hopefully take some steps in the right direction.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to lie to you, Alex. I'm getting a little overwhelmed because we have so many super chats piled up here and coming in, and we're already close to the hour mark. So we're going to start rapid firing a couple of these, getting through them a little bit quicker. Again, guys, thank you so much for leaving the super chats. For those of you who are commenting in the live chat, know that I am reading them. We obviously need to prioritize the super chat, so those are the ones that we're reading off. But I am reading your comments as well, and we appreciate everybody who's tuned in, regardless of if you're leaving super chats, normal chats, or just passively viewing. Thank you all for the support, regardless of how you're supporting. But let's go ahead and fly through some of these super chats before we do get out of here in the next however long it's going to take us, because we got to get through all of them before we get off. So Mike G, another long-term and frequent supporter of the channel. Thank you so much, Mike, saying, "Sup, boys? Good to see another episode with you, Anthony." Well, thank you, Mike. Good to see you in here for another episode with me. Playing into 2026 with my question, who is the dream offensive weapon we want to help Jackson Dart? That is a fun question, and I definitely need to look at who's going to be on the market in 2026. I'm not sure, but you know what? I think that the ideal weapon, I'm not going to name a specific player. I'm going to generalize this one and say the ideal weapon for 2026 would be if the New York Giants found like an elite tight end, right? Because they've got an elite receiver in Neighbors. We'll see if they add any more talent at receiver next year. I think they've got a nice tandem in the backfield, but a weapon that the Giants could add that could change the whole outlook of the offense. Yeah, sure, another wide receiver, but how about a tight end? That guy who attacks the middle of the field, gets up the seam. I mean, if you can bring in an elite level tight end to this offense, like imagine the Giants are picking 15 or something next year, which, I mean, I think that's kind of realistic. I think that would be an outcome a lot of Giants fans would be happy with. In fact, if they're picking 15. Tyler Warren went 14 this year. Imagine you landed like a Tyler Warren level player and added it to this offense while Jackson Dart was preparing to take over. That might be really, really exciting. So I'll generalize it and say a star tight end, I think, could really change the outlook and dynamic of this offense. So that will be my answer. But thank you so much for the super chat, Mike G. And Alex, what playmaker would you like to see added to the offense in 2026?
Yeah, man, I appreciate the super chat. Tight end. I really have to see how Theo Johnson develops this year. I do think he could be a really good player for this team, so I'm not going to sell him short. I'll leave this one unanswered at tight end. But I do think that, like adding a star tight end would be sick. That would be an awesome addition. But I think that next year adding, I mean, there's so many positions that I just am so unsure of right now. Like WR2 would be awesome. I think, okay, here's one, Anthony. Ah, man, and I kind of wish the Giants had the opportunity to get this, but I think a big upgrade at slot receiver would be cool. Like I like Wan'Dale Robinson, don't get me wrong, but like man, like what I would do to have like a Chris Godwin there, oh my goodness, it just would be awesome. If the Giants find themselves in free agency next year and there's a really good slot receiver available, or a bad team's trying to trade a player that maybe would be a good fit, having a bigger slot receiver that has more athleticism would be awesome. Like I said, I like Wan'Dale. I just think he's limited in a lot of ways, and I think that his size is definitely a limitation. So I do think like a bigger, more athletic, a little bit more powerful slot receiver would be awesome. So that's interesting. I mean, a big upgrade. I love Jermaine Luminor. I think I would even consider extending him. The other one I would say is this, Anthony. Depending on how JMS does this year, I wouldn't hate a huge upgrade at center either. Depending on if he has a bad year, I would consider a big upgrade there. I know that might be a hot take, but I do think I know it's not an offensive weapon, but I wouldn't. Yeah, but I'm just throwing it in there that like but I'm just throwing it in there. Like if JMS didn't have a good year, I would consider a big upgrade at center too, just to really give that offensive line like a true anchor in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. And you know what? To make a big upgrade at center, you probably don't have to pay that much. It's a depreciated market for centers. They don't get paid like that. So, but I was just making faces because I'm like, dream offensive weapon, a center, huh? I don't know about the definition there, but I do agree with you. Center is a position that we're keeping a close eye on this season. I have hope for JMS, but we'll see. Got to put up or shut up, basically, with JMS. Jack Whitman, another frequent supporter of the channel. Jack, thank you so much for the support. 50-50 backfield split. One drive each, like the Lions do at times, 5-yard line, unless Skattebo and take the snaps, and Tracy is running back to confuse the defense. Yeah, I think the Giants are going to get creative. I don't know if it's going to be a full 50-50 split at the start, just because there is a little bit of seniority, I think, plays into this. Tyrone Tracy Jr. entering his second season, has 12 starts under his belt. Devin Singletary is still on this roster as a veteran. So I don't think it's going to be a 50-50 split to start. I think we will get Skattebo mixed in. But as he starts to perform well, if he starts ripping off some big runs and scoring some touchdowns, yeah, the split will get close to 50-50. But ultimately, I think it's going to be more situational committee, essentially saying if they are behind and they need to pick up some yards through the air, Skattebo is going to be on the field because he's a good receiver. If they need a little bit more ball security, well, they're probably going to put the veteran Devin Singletary out there. If they just want to run through the tackles, maybe play a little outside zone, mix that in because Tracy's good at that, it'll be Tracy. So I think it's going to be very situational, and it's very much going to be a committee in the backfield, and I'm really excited for that. I think that creates a great dynamic for your offense and keeps defenses guessing. So, Jack, thank you so much for the super chat, and yeah, that's kind of what I envision for the Giants running back committee.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Jack. And yeah, I do agree. I think 50-50 will happen at some point. I think Singletary will be phased out by 2026, though. I do think the Giants will probably be like, it'll be 70% Skattebo and about 30% Tracy. I think Tracy's a really good change of pace. He's a different style of runner. He gets between the tackles really well. I mean, he had a lot of drops last year, but I know he's more than capable as a receiver. So Tracy will get involved, but having that duo, it takes a lot of pressure off of the running back. You know what I mean? A lot of teams have that dual threat now because you want to keep them healthy and preserved for the long haul of the season. So I do think that they'll get this year as pretty close to 50-50 by the time the end comes around. But 2026, I think they'll lean on Skattebo a little bit more as a workhorse type of back, because you got to lean on these backs earlier on in their career because the age, it catches up fast with them. And I do think like you should lean on them more when they're earlier on than later. So, 4th round pick, you give him the rock. You let him put on a show, especially when Jackson Dart is a rookie. They're going to want to establish the run. That will be a huge part in helping build confidence for Dart. So I do think they'll be putting the best player out there as much as possible to make sure that he's protected. So that's just kind of how I foresee the next, this year and obviously 2026 playing out at the running back position.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something that we just have to let play out, as you said. So I'm very curious to see how it does play out, but definitely going to be keeping a close eye on this backfield. Super excited to watch this backfield get to work. And Candyman, once again, recent retiree in Costa Rica, Candyman. I hope I have that right. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but another great supporter of the channel. Thank you so much, Candyman, for the super chat saying, what are the chances of a repeat of Matt Flynn / Russell Wilson in 2013, only with Dart starting over Wilson. Seattle never expected that. That is true. When the Seahawks signed Matt Flynn in that offseason, he was supposed to be that bridge, and they took Russell Wilson in the third round. Never expected him to start that year, but he was just too damn good to keep off the field. He goes out there and he makes plays, and boom, a legend was born as early as his rookie season. Could something like that happen with Jackson Dart? Possibly, but what it's really going to come down to, whether or not Jackson Dart gets playing time this season, in my opinion, it's going to come down to how many wins the Giants have in the column, right? Like, how are they performing? Are they picking up wins? Are they not? Is Russell Wilson leading this team to victory, or are they faltering? Are they losing due to the quarterback position? Like, there's a lot of factors that's going to go into it. So I can't really say. I really like Dart, but I also do think he's very raw and inexperienced as a prospect. Like, if you watch the John Gruden thing, he doesn't know what an NFL snap count sounds like, looks like, doesn't know how to run one. All he did at Ole Miss, clap, or the dummy clap, 2 claps, right? So we didn't see a whole lot from Jackson Dart in terms of his pre-snap processing, and I don't think he has that part of the game down where he could step in as a rookie and make an impact, whereas I think Russell Wilson was a little bit more advanced in that regard when he was a rookie. So we'll see how much work Jackson Dart puts in. If he's a first man in, for last guy out kind of player, and I think he is, then yeah, maybe he does have that sudden rise and ends up in the starting lineup by season's end. It's possible. I just don't think it's the expectation, and I think it's something that the Giants personally would like to avoid. Let's hope that Russell Wilson wins some games this year and that they can turn it loose with Dart in 2026. That seems to be their target date to get him on the field, but it's possible. Never say never. Maybe he does shock us and he gets on the field this year and lights it up. Totally possible.
Definitely possible, and I think if it does happen, it'll be at the end. My lukewarm take right now is that the Giants will trade Jameis Winston at some point in 2025, and that will make Jackson Dart the QB2. And if they're blowing out somebody, they will put him in. If the end of the season comes around and they're either out of contention or in contention, we'll see how things go. He could get some playing time. So I do think that Dart will make an appearance this year. I just don't think it'll be until like the last game of the season or like the last 2 weeks of the season. Or if an injury happens and Winston's already been traded. So, I do believe that that's probably something they would do, is maybe consider trading Winston for a little bit of late round draft capital to try to recoup a little bit of value with moving the third round pick next year. So I could see them doing something like that. But they didn't lose any big free agents this year to warrant any comp picks, I don't think. So they're not going to get anything from that. McKinney and Barkley obviously was the biggest ones they lost a couple years ago. So, that was, I guess a situation that the Giants would like to add some more value back to the draft capital in the future. I could see them trading Winston, but Dart, I do think will get on the field this year. I just don't think it'll be until the last 2 weeks of the season.
I'm not convinced he gets on the field because I think the Giants are going to be playing pretty competitive football all the way to the end. I'm convinced of that. Maybe I shouldn't be convinced of that. Maybe I'm insane, but you know what? Sometimes it's good to be a little insane. It's good to be a little crazy. Yeah. All right, another super chat here. This one from Mal Murchizn. Hopefully I said that right. Thank you so much, Mal. Do you think we'll finally beat Dallas this year? Yes, I do. I think Dallas misstepped egregiously this offseason in terms of how they rebuilt their roster and coaching staff, especially. I'm not convinced by the hiring of Schottenheimer. I think that's going to come back to bite them. I think they should have made a bigger splash at the head coaching position. And I don't think that they made any major upgrades to the team in terms of its player personnel either. They lost some key players in free agency. They lost some key players due to retirement. Obviously, Zach Martin being a major loss for them. Yes, they drafted Tyler Booker in the first round. He's a good player. Was definitely a reach, and I don't know how he's going to perform as a rookie. So I think Dallas is going to regress this year. Of course, Dak Prescott is coming back, so obviously you have to keep that in mind. Good quarterback and a great receiver in CeeDee Lamb. So I still think they're competitive, and I do think that they are going to be a tough opponent for the New York Giants like everybody else in the division. But I think we could sneak away with at least one against Dallas this year. And I'm really looking forward to those matchups with Dallas because they feel like winnable division games. And my God, do I want to watch the Giants win a division game? So, yeah, I do think there's a pretty good chance. But who knows? It's the New York Giants. We always go in with the hopes and expectations and never really get those realized. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing I'm excited for: Micah Parsons versus Abdul Carter. Like, that impact on both sides of the ball is going to be so interesting. Like, who has the better game from a pass rush perspective is going to be really fun. And Dak Prescott, obviously, coming off a very inconsistent year. They didn't add any more receiver supports. It's CeeDee Lamb or nothing for them. I do think that for the Giants, they have more than enough pass. They got Tyler Booker as the right guard, I believe. So, they lost Zach Martin though. So their offensive line is going to be worse, but most likely. And I do think that the Giants have a pass rush that's going to absolutely make life hell for Dak Prescott. So as long as the Giants can put up like 20 points on the board, I think they win against Dallas. I think they might sweep Dallas this year for the first time in a long time. I actually think Dallas could be, if the Giants keep progressing the way I hope they do, I think Dallas could be the worst team in this division in the next 2 years. That's my lukewarm take, because I do think the Commanders are better than them, and I do think that the Eagles are obviously better than them. The Giants, I think, could get there, but I know you're a big Dak Prescott fan, so I know
that's not
you're
lukewarm. That's a hot take. That's got to be a hot take, not a lukewarm take.
You think so? I don't think Dallas is that special.
The Giants are going to start regularly sweeping Dallas. That's definitely a hot take.
No, not regularly sweeping, but I do think they'll be better than Dallas within the next 2 years, overall.
I don't know. I think they could be, because you're banking on the 25th overall pick quarterback to become a legit franchise.
No, for sure. But that's why I said if everything goes the way that they hope it does, I think they will be. But obviously, that's still a major what if. It's a major what if.
We're going to call it a hot take for now. But anyway, moving on to the next super chat. Got a super chat here from Ricky Rodriguez. Thank you so much, Ricky. Didn't add a comment to it, but I was scrolling through and I did find a comment from Ricky. Let me see if I can find it again. Saying Skattebo is a beast, strong, powerful back. Absolutely. I mean, we're super excited for Camp Skattebo, and I can't wait to watch this guy just punch some dudes in the chin. That's what I'm looking forward to. So, Ricky, thanks so much for the support and for the super chat.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Hopefully not like Malik Neighbors punching that Lions defender in the chin during joint practices last year.
Why not? I like that. That was cool.
It was fine. I mean, it's kind of funny how people, we just forgot about that. Neighbors was kind of a hothead early, and he kind of got his stuff under control pretty quickly. I kind of respect how fast he matured and became kind of a leader.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was mature the whole way. I don't think he was a hothead in that one, because that was Kirby Joseph, a known shit talker, and Kirby Joseph, he was the one who sparked the fight first. He poked Neighbors' face mask or something. Neighbors was just defending himself. So I wouldn't call him a hothead. I'd just call him a damn good competitor and a dog.
I think that's fair. I do think Neighbors was a pretty good leader last year, despite that one incident. But I appreciate the super chat. Pharaoh, love this channel, love this draft. Dable will be dancing in the locker room again soon. Skinny Dable, by the way, and GV, I don't think Dable's eating the meatballs anymore. I think he's on the protein shakes nowadays. So although I do kind of like Fat Dable, I kind of think Fat Dable was better than Skinny Dable. So I'm just gonna put that out there.
Respectfully, not sure we can call him Skinny Dable. Thinner Dable? Sure, he's thinner than he was. I wouldn't call him Skinny Dable. I don't know, but happy that he's dropped a few. Good for him. And yes, I would like to see him rock his Jordan 3s and dance to some old school hip hop once again. That would be great, because that would mean that the Giants are winning. So, Pharaoh, thank you so much for the super chat. Another long-term supporter of the channel. We got all of the top dogs in here today for the Friday live stream. Thank you guys so much for showing so much support. But Pharaoh, thank you, and really looking forward to some Dable dance moves. God bless that man and his big bald head. SPP Williams with another super chat today. Thanks so much, Williams, saying everyone's saying we have a tough schedule. Teams have the NFC East. We not locked up with them. They locked up with the NFC East. Here's my take on the schedule thing. The schedule that the Giants have that everybody says is so difficult and impossible for the Giants to pick up wins in. How do we know that? We don't know what these teams that we're facing look like until we get to the game week, right? I mean, last year, did we not all think that the Vikings were going to be shit in week 1, and then they totally tormented us and beat us, right? So you have to keep that in mind. You never know. There's always surprise teams. Bad teams become good teams. Maybe the Giants are that team. The Giants in 2022 had the 3rd toughest schedule in terms of strength of schedule in the NFL. They went to the playoffs that year. Now it's the 1st toughest. It's not a big difference. It's still a tough schedule either way that you slice it. And the thing is, the Vikings are one of the teams inflating our strength of schedule, because they had a 14-3 record last year. They just lost their starting quarterback, and they're about to start a rookie, basically, who didn't play last year because he had a torn knee. So you got to look at it from that perspective. The strength of schedule is only based on last year's team's records. It's a year-to-year league. Washington looks like they're going to be a powerhouse, but what if there's a year 2 sophomore slump from Jaden Daniels? And the whole conversation around our schedule completely changes, and our division as well completely changes. Again, I don't foresee that, because I think Jaden Daniels is a superstar, but I'm just saying Everybody thought CJ Stroud would be better in year 2, had a sophomore slump. You see things like that happen around the league. You can't project everything. Nothing is predictable in the NFL is basically my point. So I defer on the schedule talk. This is my big thing. A lot of people say it's too tough for the Giants to win games. I disagree. I will wait till September and October when the games are being played, and I will decide then whether or not the Giants can be competitive. But right now, I'm going to say yes because I like the roster that they're putting on the field, and I have some hope that they're moving in the right direction. So I do think they can be competitive this year, despite having the toughest strength of schedule in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, all it takes is one injury to a team you play twice a year. If Jaden Daniels gets hurt or Dak gets hurt, and suddenly your schedule is like, wait a second, like you're winning both of those games now. So it's like you just don't know if injuries happen, things happen, teams get worse, teams regress, teams improve. You just really don't know until the season rolls around, and even like that same week, something could happen. So I do think that, like, yes, the strength of schedule, it's annoyingly difficult for the Giants. Like, they've had some really tough goes of it. But Anthony, let's be honest with ourselves here. I don't really like factor in strength of schedule because if you can't beat good teams, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. The Giants seem to prove they can beat and outlast good football teams. They have to be able, we can't just skirt by beating bad football teams all the time and call it a good season. You have to go into a situation where the schedule might be tough and you have to win games against tough opponents to prove that you are a team trending in the right direction. If Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen think that they need to save their jobs and, you know, they're on the line right now, they got to go out and beat competitive football teams. Beating the Jacksonville Jaguars at their worst, or beating the Dolphins without Tua, or beating whatever bad football team, the Saints, or we freaking lost to the Saints and we lost to the Panthers. You know, like, losing to these teams is like that's embarrassing. Like, you have to be able to go out and beat good football teams, and that's the only way that they're going to be able to save their jobs. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I don't care about good bad scheduling. Got to be competitive football teams, or even be competitive against good teams. So that is the first and foremost goal for this Giants team going into 2025.
Got to win some damn games. Otherwise, jobs are lost and we spiral once again out of control as Giants fans. So hopefully they do put together those wins. Next super chat here from Grimjow45 Wilson. That sounds like a play call at the line of scrimmage. Ready? Grimjow45 Wilson. Hut. That's pretty good. I got a good cadence. I'm a quarterback in flag football, but still a quarterback nonetheless. But no comment on the super chat, but appreciate the super chat. And then I went into the chat to find a comment from you. Appreciate you so much. Grimjow45 Wilson, thank you. Saying, off topic, how do you guys really feel about Dart? How I really feel about him is he's a raw prospect that needs a lot of time to develop, and the New York Giants place him in the perfect situation of which to develop a young rookie quarterback. So I really like the situation for Dart, maybe even more than I like Dart himself, but I do really like him as a prospect. I wrote an article in January. He was projected as a mid-round pick at that point. I said he could be the steal of the draft. Obviously, he goes in the first round, so it's kind of hard to say that he's still going to be the steal because I was writing that article from the perspective of a mid-round quarterback, but the tools and traits were there for him to be a starting quarterback, which is why I wrote that article. I think the NFL teams witnessed that in the pro days and the interviews and the combine and all that stuff, and so he rose up the boards and obviously went in the first round to the Giants. There was some competition there as well, so the obvious potential is there for him to be a starter. How high his ceiling goes, we'll see. I think a lot of that has to do with the situation the Giants are placing him in, but once again, I think it's a good situation. So I viewed him as an early round 2 quarterback, and they got him at the end of round 1, so I can't complain. I really like Jackson Dart, and he's giving me hope for the future, so feel really good about Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'll tell you this, Anthony. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about Jackson Dart that may not be that negative, but think about this. Like Drew Aller, for example, everyone was like, got to go back to school. Even they said the same thing about, you know, Quinn Ewers and whatnot. Like, got to go back to school. Nussmeier, got to go back to school. You know, next year, you got to wait a year and then you'll be up there in the top 5 picks. This is kind of like saying, like, hey, Jackson Dart, go back to school. But instead of going back to school, he's going and learning a NFL offense behind the scenes from a Hall of Fame quarterback and one of the best offensive coaches in the game. You know what I mean? This is the same exact concept. Like, Dart, you're going back to school. And instead, you're learning how to run an NFL offense instead of running a college Lane Kiffin quarterback-friendly offense. Very, very, very different situation. So, like, think of it that way. You know, we're giving him a year. We're basically telling him, go learn, improve, get better, and prepare. If you were able to tell him able to give a player a chance to do that, you'd probably jump at the opportunity. To answer the question, I think Dart choked too much in college, but I pray he proves me wrong. Dart had his moments, right? He made bad mistakes, but Josh Allen did the same exact stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like it's a mentality thing, right? Dart would take the big chances and not what the defense was giving him all the time. Those things can be coached out of. Those just decision making, right? He doesn't lack tangible traits. He doesn't lack arm strength. He doesn't lack mobility. Like he just has lapses in judgment. So I think that he gets trigger happy. Is kind of what another comment said. It does matter. And I think those things can be taught, though. Like you can teach a player to be more composed. You can teach a player to make better decisions. That's why I'm not overly concerned about those choked moments, because those things are coachable. It's the things that aren't coachable, like failure to be able to be decisive or be aggressive. Like those things, sometimes you just don't have that intuitive nature. Like Daniel Jones did not have that intuitive nature to be aggressive, be a gunslinger. Dart is those things. If he can control that and find a balance to that game, he can be an incredibly great player. And he's going to learn how to be composed and learn how to balance and learn how to go to those reads and be more efficient with his decision making. And that is why I'm excited about Dart, because he is, as Anthony has said many times, a ball of clay. And the Giants are molding him behind the scenes before he takes over. They don't have to throw him into the fire and basically ruin a piece of clay that they can mold behind the scenes to prepare for that moment, instead of the league molding him in real time, getting his confidence shattered because he's not ready yet. They're basically having him as a student of the game, and then they're able to apply that when they feel the time is right. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think all the negativity is completely overblown. You're talking about a player that's not going to be the same. Like the player that you saw in college, the player that we just drafted a year from now is going to be totally different. So like, let's let that process unfold before we make a judgment call about just finished doing in college, because we're talking about a different player a year from now.
Absolutely true. That's why I said I love the situation for Dart even more than I love Dart, and I really like Dart as a quarterback prospect. So moving along here, we got another super chat from Golden Spation, another frequent supporter of the channel. Golden, thank you so much, saying off topic, but they need to sign another kicker. I do actually agree with you. I think Graham Gano has had too many injuries, and when he was healthy last year, he showed serious signs of regression. So kicker, between now and the start of training camp, they got to add another body in here. I don't know if they got to go out there and sign a starting level player, or if they want to sign someone to the practice squad, let them compete, whatever it is, but they definitely need some sort of insurance at this position. It's an overlooked position for many NFL teams, but the teams that overlook it are the teams that end up getting bit in the ass by their kickers. So the New York Giants definitely need to go ahead and look for kickers, in my opinion. Totally agree with you, Golden. Alex, how are you feeling about the kicker spot? Obviously, it's just Graham Gano versus nobody, and I think they should absolutely try and bring in some competition for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Graham Gano is just an injury waiting to happen at this point. He's just been injured every year, unreliable, inconsistent. Even when he's been healthy, he's missed kicks. I know they have him under contract, so they'll probably give him another go of it. But I think if he doesn't hold his own this year, they'll move on. But yeah, appreciate the super chat, Golden Spation, as always, another frequent flyer in the chat. But yeah, agree with you. I think they won't sign another kicker immediately, but if Gano goes down again, they might just cut him in the end and go with somebody else.
Absolutely. I think that's totally a possibility. We shall see. I know that they can save money from cutting Graham Gano, so we'll see if they end up doing that. And we do have our last super chat of the day before we wrap up this live stream, and this is going to be a fun one, Alex. Lower your keyboards, guys. Hit that little button on the keyboard, lower the volume, because I'm about to do something a little silly here. Really let this thing go off with a bang, or should I say a bam, or should I say a scataboom? Boom! Right? You know you love the Costco boys. Let's combine that with a good, healthy scataboo! And that's where I'm going to leave you guys. Thank you so much for the super chat, Michael, and thank you so much to everybody who tuned in today, all 400 plus of you that tuned in for this Friday afternoon live stream. Alex, I'll give you an opportunity to thank Michael for his gracious super chat and to leave the fans with any final words and remarks before we do end the live stream. Once again, though, guys, thank you so much. Alex, go ahead and take it away. Scataboom.
I can't even compete with that Skattebo, but Mike, really appreciate the super chat. Really was a girthy Skattaboom, to be quite Frank, and I'll tell you, man, like this is going to be a frequent flyer for us on the channel. Obviously, we'll have to make some T-shirts and stickers and stuff for you guys, and I'm going to process these stickers. I'm going to send them to Anthony tomorrow. Yes, I will do it tomorrow. I promise. And I just haven't gotten around to it. Been busy, but I will be getting those stickers to Anthony so that way he can send them out to the loyal viewers of this channel. And I think we may have to do a Skattaboom one as well.
Oh, that would be a good one. Unfortunately, I'll be in England tomorrow, so not going to be able to send those stickers.
Well,
but
it takes a week to get
back,
them. It takes 10 days.
Okay,
it takes 10 days.
Fair enough. Well, I'll be in England for 10 days. So if you guys have any recommendations on where to go in England, you drop them below in the comment section, and I read all the comments. So if you have any England recommendations, especially for those of you who are viewing from the UK, drop some comments down below. It's my first time. Yeah, I'm going to have fish and chips for sure. It's my first time ever going to Europe and over to the UK, and I'm really excited. So I'm getting a little vacation in there before, of course, we get more excitement later on in this offseason with the New York Giants. A couple things on the horizon. Obviously, we might slow down the live stream just a little bit for the 10 days that I'm in England, but we'll probably live stream a few times. I'm going to have some extra pre-recorded episodes going live as well, and definitely a bunch of social media content that you guys won't want to miss. So make sure you're tuned in to Fireside Giants on all the social media channels. Other thing on the horizon that I do want to put on your guys' radar, it's kind of early to put this on your radar, but I want to put it out there anyway. End of next month is Fanatics Fest at the Javits Center in New York City. I will be there, member of the press for Empire Sports Media, of course, as the lead of Fireside Giants. I'm really excited for Fanatics Fest. We had a blast last year, so if you guys are planning on going to Fanatics Fest, want to let you know you will have an opportunity to meet yours truly, and we can all take a video together. I think what we really should do, get a whole bunch of us all together in one group and lay out a big Skattebo in the middle of Fanatics Fest. That would be a great video for the Fireside Giants Instagram. So if you want to go to Fanatics Fest and you want to see me and you want to lay a Skattaboom down on the line, you let me know, hit me in the DMs, and hopefully I'll see you at the end of June in New York City at Fanatics Fest. So appreciate you all again so much for tuning in. Maximus with a good comment here, though, before we get out, saying, should hold off to see if Napoli win the Scudetto and go there. Last one was insane. Absolutely. Originally, when I was planning this trip to Europe, I was planning to go to Italy at the end of May and try and be there for Scudetto weekend. But the scheduling didn't line up, unfortunately. And now that they're in first place in the race to the Scudetto, it's kind of breaking my heart that I'm not going to be there that weekend because it would have been an absolute scene. But hopefully they go back to back with Conte, the serial winner, as our manager. So hopefully in 2026, when I go to Italy, because that's the plan, they will raise another Scudetto banner. We'll see, though. But once again, guys, can't thank you all enough for the support and for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this big, girthy live stream, to take the word that Alex loves to utilize so much. Over almost an hour and a half here. But again, guys, make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Listen to Apple, Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.